What is up, guys? Today we are doing a suspension comparison, cheap versus expensive. We've got our giveaway bike on the budget suspension setup, and then of course we got Lilith on the expensive setup. So stick around for this one. If this is something you're interested in, hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe for more videos like this. But we're gonna jump in and see, is more expensive better? All right, so let's talk about the bikes we have here, because they're not exactly apples to apples. So we do have our giveaway bike, which if you're watching this video, we do not have much longer. We will be giving this away very, very soon. It is our 04 Super Glide. And sorry about the stuff in the background. I don't know how much you're hearing. There's some farm equipment kind of behind the house. So maybe that'll die down after a little bit, but this is our 04 Super Glide, carbureted. So one of the last year carbureted and one of the last year early model dynas. So this bike right here, we did a $5,000 budget challenge. Now, who challenged us? Me. I just did it myself. We wanted to spend $5,000 on making a pretty cool bike. So we bought the bike and the upgrades and stuff you see for $5 grand. Speaking of the suspension, we have the drag specialties, adjustable. They're like the 13.5 adjustable shocks. We got them pushed up a little bit. They're probably closer to 14. Those were a really nice pickup. Pretty much like $100, if not a little less, because we got it in a bundle deal with the exhaust. And then on the front, the big difference between these two bikes. This is a 39mm front. That's a 49mm front. Basically, the diameter of the tube. So this one we redid with new fluid and just some progressive springs. That's a pretty, standard option. But to kind of mimic our style with over there, we did do 2-inch risers. So what you can do is basically get a new cap. Here, I'll get the old ones and show you. So this cap threads down into the top of the tube, and we basically, it's the same thing. We just got a 2-inch longer version. Now, because of the brake line being kind of close, it's not bad sitting still. And then once you sit on it, you have plenty of travel. But we could only go about 1.5 inches in the front. So about 1.5 inches in the front and just a tad over 1.5 inches in the back. The bike has a pretty good stance. She definitely leans a little, not as much as our purple bike. But overall, you're looking at, because we got used shocks, and of course, if you go on a budget, used stuff isn't that bad. But we spent roughly $300 on this whole suspension setup. Is it perfect? No, but we spent way more on that. So let's jump in what we have over here. So this bike over here is our 2008 dyna lowrider, and it being an 08, the frame is different, so that's like I'm saying, it's not apples to apples. And of course, these are 49mm front ends, so much bigger front end diameter around all the tubes. And this one is a little bit harder to see because we have a fairing, but we went with the Legends Revo Arcs in the back, so we have a piggyback, and they are 3-way adjustable. The shocks over here are 1-way adjustable. Well, I guess technically 2-way adjustable because they are height adjustable, where these are not. But this really just has preload, where this has preload, compression, and rebound. So you can really dial in your shocks over here, which is a big benefit. But we spent $100 on those shocks, and I think these retail for $1,200. So big difference there. Now on the front end, we actually have drop-in cartridges. So they are adjustable inside, but that's basically like a preset that you'll do once you get everything in. And of course, Depending on the bike and the weight of the rider, they are valved proportionate to what you are and what you have. And these are 2-inch taller options, so we have longer travel. And we didn't do that with an actual top. We did that with longer tubes. These tubes are actually 2 inches longer, and that has given this bike this massive lean you see. Definitely got a gangster lean going on. But what that does is you have extra suspension travel. Now on this bike, because we just went with the caps, these springs are normal length springs. We just raised the height to give us a better look and more lean angle. We didn't actually get longer throw springs. So a big kind of difference there, and where I spend a little bit more money can definitely help you. Now, these springs over here are, I'm going to say, somewhat adjustable, mainly because at the top of the spring you put spacers in there, and that kind of adjusts your preload. So I would suggest you kind of get it as tight as possible. Now, of course, if you read the instructions, it does kind of have like what you're supposed to do, but if you do have it about as tight as you can get, you can ride it for a little bit, and then you can take these caps off and then chop this down and make it a little shorter to release some of that tension and make it a little softer. So you can still dial it in to your riding. It's just not going to be nearly as good as that over there. So with all of that out of the way, does $2,200 in suspension outweigh $300 in suspension? We're going to go take both these bikes for a little rip. Now, I have ridden both of these, put lots of miles on both of these, so I'm kind of just going to give my opinion as I ride them. We don't have the craziest curvy roads, but living in the backwoods, we definitely have some bumps and some curves. We're going to take you on the same roads and kind of talk about them, and we'll go from there. Also, I forgot to mention, as I normally do, but yes, I did say giveaway bike. You can enter to win this bike every $5 you spend at wretchedclothing.com, whether it's t-shirt, hat, whatever. You can pick some merch up, and every $5 get you a spot to enter this bike. We did have people ask about just buying entries, so that is available also. We have like some supercharged tiers where at $25, $50, and $100, where that you get way more entries than just $5 or one for every $5. So that is available if you're interested. Again, if you're watching this video right when it comes out, you do not have long to get entered to win this bike. Alright, so I chose to take the giveaway bike first. So first of all, we're not going to get too rowdy because your boy never registered it. But it'll be fine. I just took a tag off the other bike when I took trips on it. But we're not going to go that far, so it's okay. But anyways, budget suspension. So we're going to go down the street, go take a little tiny ride, and I've got just a couple of like kind of turns and dips and stuff I'm going to take, so like we'll get a good idea of how she feels. And then we're going to take the purple bike right back out behind it and see if it's really worth that much more money. So let's jump right in. Let's see if old girl starts up. Of course she did. You gotta love a carburetor when she is set, because I mean, she is not hot at all. You gotta love it though, but she's ready to go. Alright, we're riding. So this suspension is really not that bad. I will say, these type of rear shocks, this is technically my third pair on a third bike. So I've had this rear setup twice before. It is a very popular kind of like budget option. Now the front suspension I've never done. I've never done like those little spacers or like extensions with just those springs. I've had the progressive springs before, but not with that 1.5-inch rise. Already can tell the back is pretty tight. It definitely is not supple at all. The front end feels pretty good. Of course, I know it's not going to be, it's kind of apples and oranges because we don't have the same generation, which means we don't have the same front end anyways. But that's all right. And of course, bikes are going to feel different anyways, but I can feel those bumps in my spine. Got to be a little careful on these back roads right here. People constantly cut these corners wide and they'll hit you. Definitely can feel every bump that you come across, but that's all right. So the suspension that was on here previously was pretty much just blown out stock, and that was no good. There was fluid in both of them in the front, not enough. It wasn't actively leaking, but a little low on fluid in the front. I don't know if it was stock fluid or not. You can kind of hear my voice kind of jump while I'm talking, and I can almost guarantee you every single time that's a bump I'm hitting, and that rear suspension is kind of bouncing back. But I will say, like, leaning the bike and the front end feels really good. Can't really complain much about the front end. We probably could have got with like a little bit looser rear shocks, but we really went budget on this and got a used set, so we kind of got what we got. We could change the preload a little bit, but this bike was also set up to be kind of like an around town ripper. That little bump we hit back there, that was kind of like a bigger like dip. That wasn't bad at all. It's those more harsh bumps that the back kind of feels. Overall, I feel like the suspension's doing pretty well. I love the height. I love the angle you can get. The stability is nice. It kind of comes back to center pretty well. Again, this bike was low from when I got it. I think he had like 11s, or like it might have been measured out to 11 and a half. So I can't quite remember. So putting this tall of a suspension on it, I am very happy over what I had. I don't know if I've caught it all on video, but it's been 2 times already in my short little ride. There's been vehicles coming from the other direction in my lane. Now just right back there was just somebody not paying attention in that car. But then previously, that SUV in that corner was from that broken up pavement, and that's pretty normal. So you do have to be very careful on these back roads because people just don't pay attention. And you can't really use all of your lane, I will say, because you really got to protect yourself. Whew, that was a decent bump right there. But we've gone pretty much as far as we're gonna go. We're gonna turn around now. This suspension overall, that was a big bump. The suspension overall, massive improvement over stock. I don't think the rear shock stock really do anything for you unless, you know, you're vertically challenged. A lot of times they're pretty low on a Harley, especially these early dynas. An early lowrider, man, you pick them up all the time and they've got like 11-inch shocks on them, or even 12-inch shocks, and you're just like, Jesus, this thing is just riding on the ground. You go to take like a nice curve and your pegs are in the dirt. Like your pegs are just scraping like crazy. This little curve up here going this direction used to be a really cool way to kind of come down and have a nice kind of hard charging corner you had to be very careful of, but now the ground's just been kind of coming apart and they're doing a poor job of fixing it. That little corner right there ain't as fun as it used to be. And of course, with a lot of these driveways, there's sand and rocks everywhere. But that's pretty much the typical route. I kind of have everything I need to gather as far as information here. I know how this route feels. I know how this bike feels. So let's hop on the purple bike and do this exact same route back to back. So before we give our opinion on old girl here, we're going to hit the street, do that exact same ride with Lilith, and then we will give our closing thoughts and comparison. Alright, so first off, it's weird hopping from that bike straight to this bike because the rider position is not the same. This is fuel injected, that was carbureted, the throttle doesn't feel the same. Everything about just rider triangle and what you touch and hold on to, different. Not worse or better, just different. So I just got completely used to that bike over there, and then now it's just like, oh, okay, this feels kind of weird. But right out of the gate, I can definitely feel like the rear is a little softer, but not in the sense of like drooping, just like it just doesn't feel harsh. Like, I guess that's a good way to describe it. Like, it doesn't feel rigid, whereas the other bike did. Now, you can probably really take out a lot of preload in the other bike, but you know, you don't want to do that too much. I feel like both bikes lean pretty good. Now, of course, the rake and the whole frame is not the same, so it's really hard to compare that. Well, there's a little bit of a bump. But, yeah, like that's kind of hard to compare. I will say I've already hit a couple bumps, and it's different. I love this bike. It's always rowdy. This bike definitely feels a lot smoother. I think I can credit that to a lot to do with the suspension. I'm still kind of going over the same terrain, so I'm getting the same kind of whoops and kind of bumps, but it's not rigid. I guess that's a really good way to describe, like, it's not nearly as rigid. The front end still kind of like soaks up a lot. You can feel the bike kind of go over it, but not one time have I felt the rear kind of like hit back. So going down this hill, let's kind of
see how it does in the exact same spot. Pretty good. Honestly, it felt very similar. It felt a lot in the same. But yeah, not once, anytime I've hit a bump or anything harsh, have I felt kind of that pinch in my lower back that I felt in the other bike. Make sure old man there stopped. It's kind of rolling up through that intersection there. Unfortunately, we have kind of met up with a car here, so we're not going to be able to roll through this too much. Got to take it a little slower. I don't know if it's the fairing or what. I do feel like I go slower on this bike, and then I look down the speedometer and realize I'm not going slower. It just always feels slower than I really am. I mean, we're going slow now, but ain't nothing we can do about that. Alright, looks like we're ditching this car. So now we have open road. See, I really like this bike. It's always felt planted, but like nimble at the same time. Kind of straight as a board, and good suspension, kind of soaks up the bumps. Pretty good. I always trust that if my skill level can do it, I'm pretty sure the bike can too. Now, I know a lot of that does have to do with tires. We do have much better tires on this bike, but I'm not pushing either one of those bikes to its limit. I have a lower limit than what the bikes do. Of course, the sun is setting right in my eyes. Having a hard time seeing around these corners when the sun is blasting me in my face, but let's turn around and go the other way. Feeling pretty good. Had a nice little bump out of that curve, and the bike soaked it up real nice. Happy about that. Yeah, it's definitely feeling pretty planted, and you can tell like the shocks are working in multiple different directions, and you can really kind of dial in like how fast and hard it pushes down and how fast and hard it kind of lets back up. And that is kind of the beauty of having multiple adjustments in the rear. Now both suspension in the front is kind of set it and forget it. Not that they're not adjustable, but you're not turning any knobs or anything like that. If you want to make an adjustment, you're going to have to take it apart. So we set it pretty much where it needs to be, and I'm not going to be that nitpicky of taking the front end back apart. But I have adjusted both rears. This bike more, mainly because I've ridden it more. But definitely got them dialed in, and we got a pretty good comparison of what we got. So this is pretty much where we stopped the other bike. I kind of know what I have. Let's get back to the house, and I'll basically tell you what I think about both, and given the price points, let's do the pros and the cons and see which one's better.
Alright, so we're done with our little rip around the neighborhood. So let's talk about the pros, cons, and what do I think. First off, what I'm going to say for the pros, on this suspension setup is obviously price. It's very accessible, it's kind of easy to do, and anybody can do it. 2 bulge each side over here, and even on this side, if your front suspension is not leaking, you don't have to disassemble it. You basically take the top cap off, pour the fluid out. You may not get every bit of fluid out. Put the spring back in, refill your fluid, put the cap back on, and your suspension is way better than its clapped out form that you probably got it in. So ease of installation, cheaper price. Cons, well, the comfort. It just isn't going to be there. Now, is it going to hold the road? Sure, I do like that about it. What I liked is it kind of held in the corners, coming out of the corners, getting on the throttle, getting off the throttle. It didn't dive, and that's a big problem with suspension up here. If you're picking up a dyna, just any dyna, because they haven't made them since 2017, I'm going to guess your front end is blown out. Putting new fluid and a nice set of springs is a huge game changer. There's nothing worse than riding your bike and you go into a corner and it dives real hard, and then you try to throttle out and the whole suspension, you know, accordions up, and it makes it unstable. So just in this form right here, we fix that, and it is wonderful. Now, the pros and cons of the expensive setup. Now, just because we use Legend doesn't mean like you can start comparing between Legend and Öhlins and RWD, and there's other options out there. I use Legend because of the ease of adjustment, but you're really getting into the nitpicky, and I doubt any normal rider is going to notice any difference between brands that are set up exactly correct. So we're not worried about that. This isn't a Legend, oh, Legend's the best. This is just, I like Legend, but this is just cheap versus expensive. So what I really enjoy about the rear shocks here is all the adjustments you have. Now, while technically the cheaper version does have one adjustment we don't, that's not very common, just having the adjustable height. But having all the adjustments we have back here really lets you dial it in. And like I was saying when I was riding, not one time did we hit a bump back here and I have that like sharp hit of kind of like the lower back. Being able to have all this is pretty nice, and I mean, you can't go wrong. The front suspension, it was really nice. Again, kind of the same deal as the other bike. It cures all your dive, your accordion, all that like weird setup when you get in and out of a corner. I did not feel as much difference between the both front ends as I did the rear, I will admit, but man, does it look good, and it feels just as good as it looks. One other caveat, I will say, this suspension only has a few thousand miles on it, and the front end over here on the red bike has maybe 500. The rears were used, so I don't know what that has. But also, when you get this nice new fancy suspension over here, you get a lifetime warranty. So that warranty follows you and the shocks, not the bike, and not the shocks by themselves. So if I were to get a different bike, I could take this suspension off, hold on to it, put it in a different bike, and for $40, I can get these rebuilt or fixed every time. That's shipping there and back. So that's not something you get with a cheap budget marketplace option. And if you buy these used, you don't get that option as well. So I'm not an advocate for like warranties on your bikes, like from the manufacturer, because I mean, we're gonna thrash them and we're gonna build them up or whatever, but having a warranty on this stuff is kind of nice. I have had to use a warranty on these shocks for my bagger before. It started leaking a little bit out of the adjustable knob, and like I said, 40 bucks, got them repaired, rebuilt, sent back to me, and pretty quick, wasn't too bad. So what do I think cheap versus expensive? Which one is better? Well, obviously the Legends are better. The more expensive suspension is better. Now, how much better? Let's get into that. I've never been one to spend a bunch of money because I've never been rich. I don't have a bunch of money. I buy clapped out dynos on Marketplace because I scoop up good deals before other people can. I get lucky sometimes. But I will say, if I were to do this on a bike, one, it depends on what you're going to do. I built this bike right here to just rip around town, and that bike right back there is built to ride 4 hours to the mountains or 4 hours to the beach and then rip around there for an extended weekend. So a little bit more comfort needed to happen in that bike over there. And as nice as that bike is, we did do a whole build series on it. It's still kind of budgety, especially as far as like Instagram and YouTube goes with some of the people, how they build their bikes. But what would I do if I had to build kind of an in-between bike? I wasn't trying to do a super budget challenge, but I don't have money to be dropping on all this up here. What would I do? So what I would do would kind of be a mix of the two. And if you have more than $300, but you don't want to drop $2,200 over there, and you just picked up your dyna, or this probably can, convert over to pretty much any Harley. This is what I would do if I were you. So I'm going to assume your bike's used. It's probably 5 to 10 years old, maybe. This thing right here is 21. So this is what I would do. First, let's get over to the front. Now, if you have the money to drop everything at one time, I'm always a proponent of lift your bikes. They're probably too low unless you're vertically challenged. Which that, I understand, you got to do what you got to do. But some of these bikes, I'm telling you, especially early model dynas, they are so low. I mean, they are low. You definitely can use some more lean angle. But what I would do is immediately, at the least, if your forks need to be rebuilt, rebuild them. One advantage we did have over here versus over there, I forgot to mention on these drop-ins, we did longer tubes, which means we had to completely disassemble our front end. Now, good time to go ahead and put all new seals in this thing, but it's not as easy doing these drop-in cartridges as it is just putting new oil and springs over here. So if we don't know what we're going to do and you just got this bike, I would immediately get new fork oil. If you know it's leaking, well, then we got to rebuild it. But you might not even have enough oil in there to even know it's leaking. So I'd get new fork oil, a little bit heavier than stock, another set of springs. Progressive, I think, is about as cheap as you can go. There are some other options, completely up to you. But I would at least put brand new springs, brand new fluid, and just call that a day. If you want, you can get these little adjustable block or little extensions here, and you can lift it up a little bit, make your spacer about as tight as you can. That way you can always shave some down. Now on the back here, I would save up a little bit of money. I would not get these if you're buying them brand new. They used to be pretty cheap. I think you used to could get them for like $200 new. They're closer to $400 new now, and I just feel like that's too much. You can find a good deal on used ones like I did. Go for it. That'll get you around. Do whatever you want to do. Get your height, but be careful with that. It still is kind of a cheap option. We got a good deal. Don't spend $400 on these brand new. I would go with something like these over here. Now I do know these are $1,200. There are some other options that are still nice, not as expensive. If you want to go with something like this, they even make a $800 version that is just preload adjustable. Is it as nice? No. Does it look as cool? No. But it's going to be so much better than what we have over there on the budget bike. And again, it's $800 instead of $1,200. Now, if you want to hit the middle, they still don't have the rebound. I think it's rebound, compression, one of them. But it doesn't have one of the adjustment up here plus the extra oil. It just has this adjustment and preload. That's actually what I run on my bagger. And you can pick those up for, I believe, $1,000. You can get some used if you don't really care about the warranty. I have seen shocks like these and even the lower step kind of go for like $700. So if you are budget conscious, just get a used set. If you need to rebuild them. It's not like these things go bad all the time. It's not that bad. So yeah, that's kind of where I would be, is right in the middle, and usually that's probably the best on a lot of things. Sometimes you don't always get the best of the best just by spending the most amount of money, because there's a threshold. Now, that bike's great, don't get me wrong, but you can get a cheaper option and still do pretty good. Like I said, I would mimic kind of what we did here. Maybe spend a little bit more money and get some race techs in the front. They do have emulators and different things you can use for that top end, and you can get some adjustment out of the top end, and kind of like the old FXDX is. I'll show you. There are options where you can have some adjustment in the top of the front end. So it's completely up to you what you want to spend and what you want to do. Go a little budget on the front, but you're not going to want to skip out as much on the rear. Your back will appreciate it. Trust me, you will get older and you will appreciate a really nice suspension in the rear, because you do want your suspension to kind of be firm enough to where it's not diving on you and kind of jumping up on you, and you still want the softness of, you know, just a nice quality set. So when you're cruising and doing different things or hitting bumps, it's not breaking your back or fatiguing you, and it rides pretty well. And that usually just comes with a little bit of dollars, because you do need some quality. So comment down below, what do you think? What do you think is worth it? Is it even worth it to do any of these budget options? Should you just jump straight in and go to a full suspension? I'm sure there's some more expensive than these. You don't have to go too over in the front if you want to do the cartridges. So that would save you, like, I think $200 or somewhere around $200 for fork tubes. That would save you a little bit of money if you didn't go too over, especially if you're not too worried about height. But comment down below, what would you do with your situation, or what have you done in your situation? I would love to hear it. Of course, if you don't mind, like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and if you're watching this when it came out, don't forget, we're going to be giving this away really soon. So hit up the website, wretchedclothing.com. Don't miss out. And as always, keep it wretched.